Hi, I see so many people on the line today, and I just want to say welcome to my five-part series on intergenerational wealth. Part two is today, and I've called it 5 Actions That High Net Worth Parents Should Stop to Better Empower Their Children. And I'm also going to talk about 5 actions that high net worth parents should start to better empower their children. Hopefully you were able to join me on my first webinar of the series, Shirt Sleeves to Shirt Sleeves. In my first intergenerational wealth transfer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, just relax and go with the flow. Welcome. I see so many people on the line today, and it's just so great. There's so much interest out there on intergenerational wealth transfers. Welcome to my 5-part series. This is part 2, and today I've called it 5 Actions That High Net Worth Parents Should Stop to Better Empower Their Children. And I'm also going to include 5 actions that high net worth parents should start to better empower their children. Hopefully you were able to join me for part 1 of my intergenerational wealth series. And part 1 was all about preparing your heirs to receive their inheritance. And we talked about no matter how great your lawyers or accountants are, it's all about preparing your children and grandchildren. And today we're going to continue the theme of preparing children and grandchildren to be good at managing their wealth and avoiding the mistakes that I've made myself and that I've seen other parents make as well. So once again, welcome. Do yourself a favor, turn off distractions, and engage in the material being presented. You want me that far back?
Because I want your hands to come through like part of.
Okay. So a little bit about me. For those of you on the webinar who don't know me, my name is Susan O'Brien, and I'm the creator of the Net Worth Thinking Lens and author of the book, A New Way Forward for Wealth Management Net Worth Thinking. For over 22 years, should just maybe take myself down here a little bit, just so you can see all these beautiful people in this picture. For over 22 years, I've been building financial plans focused on leading families to a successful wealth transition and to pass on generational wealth. I'm not just teaching others, I'm also doing it myself. And you can see through these pictures that I'm involved in my own educating of the next 2 generations and involved in my own wealth transfers. I built 2 businesses from the bottom up. After years at the CRA and a major accounting firm, I was ready to take a leap and started Susan O'Brien and Associates, which was a tax consulting firm. Though it was successful, it was a transaction-based business, and I wanted to give more to people. My passion is wealth management, and I wanted people to be able to overcome all the concerns I faced. It spurred me to start writing books and really delving deep into people's real lives. So not only am I educating and teaching and doing these webinars on intergenerational wealth transfers, I'm involved in my own, as I mentioned. And from left to right, you can see my children, Austin, Alex, my granddaughter Summer, my daughter Caroline and her husband, my son Andrew. We all love to travel. And in the very middle is myself, my partner Peter, and all of our combined grandchildren together. So although I don't know your personal circumstances today, I don't know if you're a parent or grandparent, I want to be able to give you some ideas and tips and strategies on this webinar today that's really going to help you. So how do we teach the next generation to manage money? How do we avoid the mistakes that parents make? Or how do we give great tips to parents and grandparents on educating the next generation? So what I've developed is a way of looking at people's lives, where they are today, where they want to go in the future, what their goals and values are for their own life and for the life of the people that are most important to them. And I've found working with families, it is typically children, grandchildren, partners, nieces, nephews, whoever you define as your family. So what I've developed is a net worth thinking lens. And in the net worth thinking lens, you can see 4 boxes there. There's a focus one with the eyeglasses. There's a function one with the microscope. There's a family lens and a freedom lens. And what I do when I work with people is I take them through these 4 lenses to really define what they want to get out of our conversations, our strategies, and opportunities for them and their family. So in the focus lens, it's all about you, what's important in your life, what your purpose is in your life, how we focus down to what's really important to you. The function lens then goes, if this is really important to you, and on this webinar we're talking really about mistakes parents can make or avoid, which is really about educating the next generation and having a successful wealth transfer, then we want to look through the microscope and get to the function lens. And the function lens then incorporates all kinds of tools, tactics, and strategies to make that purpose, that focus come to life for you. And then you've got the camera, which is the family lens, my very favorite. You can see through my intergenerational wealth series that it's all about family. It's all about how do we empower the next generation. And so family typically runs through all of the net worth thinking lenses, but we want to make sure that we keep that family focus there. And what do we get at the end of it? We get that feeling of freedom. And so we have the binoculars there to show freedom. You haven't missed out on anything. You've got your purpose in life. You've got your strategies in life. You've got your family around you. And finally, you have the freedom knowing that you've done a good job stewarding your own wealth and passing it on to future generations. So we're not going to have time to go over everything in this 30-minute webinar because there are so many ideas, tips, tools, strategies that we could be here for days. And believe me, I love talking about this, so I could be here for days. But if you have just 2 minutes, you can jump onto my website, which is networththinking.com, and take my Will I Run Out of Money in Retirement quiz. The Will I Run Out of Money in Retirement quiz just give you a quick snapshot if you have clarity around your money and if you're taking the right steps today to prepare for the future. And I'm just going to move myself back up to the top of the screen. Okay, this wave.
Try and think about your feet being behind that line.
So once again, it's the Will I Run Out of Money in Retirement quiz, and it's found on my networththinking.com website. 2 minutes of your time. If you don't have time for this entire webinar, let's start there. I don't have a remote control, which is I need. So what am I going to equip you with during this webinar? I'm going to help you just to get clear on your money values and to communicate them to your children. I titled this stop making those same old mistakes that I make and I see parents making. And I think the first step in that is just recognizing sometimes the mistakes that we're making and then the new way of thinking that we can start. And give you some new tools and tactics to give you the confidence on a new path forward on intergenerational wealth transfers and money management overall. If you're still with me on this webinar, then it's like, why do I care? Why should I care about what Susan O'Brien is talking about today? And for me, I can only talk about myself and what I've seen in the hundreds of families that I've helped through 22 years, is that most parents want to give their kids a hand up. They don't want to give their kids a hand out. They don't want to give their children a sense of entitlement. They really want to bring up well-balanced children who can manage their money effectively. So if I wake up at 3 o'clock at night, then I'm often thinking about the impact of my wealth on my children. Are they good stewards of money? Are they in debt? Are they saving? Do they have good money management skills? How am I doing in helping them? So that is why I think you should care, but each one of you will have your own reasons. I know it's different than that because it's old. So what is stopping you from achieving a successful wealth transition and teaching your children about money today? Oh, Peter, money. Can I just adjust that here? Probably not.
No. No, you can't.
Money. Let me just make a note of
Slide.
what 7.
That's it. Okay.
So what I find is yeah, we've all heard of that saying of the, good intentions and well-meaning, but without any kind of follow-through, it doesn't mean a thing. So I just find that in my own practice, many people are just overworked, overstressed, too busy. They're not only dealing with children like I am, grandchildren like I am, but they also may be dealing with elderly parents like I am as well. So people are caregivers of children, their elderly parents. The big one too is that many people don't know where to start. They don't know what they don't know. They know that they need to teach their children better money management, but they don't know where to start or who to go to. And there are some people that just feel, what advisors do I have? Do the advisors have my best interest at heart? So I just invite each of you to look at your own experiences and say, is there something stopping you from achieving the goals with your wealth that you want to, and how can you overcome them? So this is my disclaimer slide. There's no quick fixes in a 30-minute webinar. We have been working one-on-one with parents for over 20 years, and I'm working with myself and my own children and still sometimes making the same old mistakes that I've made before. So this webinar is not for people who want magic formulas or quick fixes. They're not for short-term thinkers, not for people who want to control their wealth beyond the grave. What we're doing here is we're trying to recognize our own mistakes and empower our children to be better stewards of wealth. So I hope by the end of our quick 30 minutes, you'll feel a little bit more confident, and you're not the only parent making mistakes, that all parents and all of us, not being perfect people, are constantly making mistakes with our children, and that includes teaching them really good, healthy money habits. So I'm hoping you will know and explore a little better ways of empowering your children, and you'll stop that spinning in your head that may be stopping you from achieving your goals, which is, if there's something more I should be doing. So getting children launched today, I thought it might be insightful to just see what parents are doing. So as I mentioned, most parents want to give children a hand up and not a hand out. And that's a difficult balancing act, and it's going to be different for each family. So I looked at the BMO Wealth Institute did a study in 2015, which I think still resonates today with 2020. And it really goes into how are parents helping children. So when we think of this seminar, I started off high net worth parents. So the most interesting part, well, one of the most interesting parts of the BMO study was that most people find themselves feeling like that, I'm not rich, I'm in the middle class, or I'm not poor, I'm in the middle class. If people are very wealthy, they generally think they're poorer than they are, which can stop them from implementing strategies that would be of benefit to them. And if they're poor or strained financially, then they often think they're richer than they are. And so parents can make mistakes in that situation too. So if you're still with me right now, you may be part of that middle class, but there may be strategies, tips, and tools that you're not using because you have a perception about your wealth that is holding you back from achieving your goals. The next big item that I liked in the BMO Wealth Institute study was, when do children actually become adults? And 46% of parents with children aged 18 and over stated adulthood begins between the ages of 22 and 25. I thought it was when I was 16 and got my driver's license. 46% of parents with children aged 18 and over stated adulthood begins between the ages of 22 and 25. And it was interesting that exactly the same percentage, 46% of parents with children under 18, had the same answer. Adulthood begins between the ages of 22 and 25. So sometimes we may look at our children and determine that they are not good stewards of the wealth. They do not have good money management skills. And it may not always be because we're making mistakes as parents. It could be they just haven't been launched yet. They have not reached what we consider adulthood today. So Going on to how parents help their children today, giving them a hand up, perhaps, and not a handout, is that, I'm just going to move me a little bit so everybody on the webinar can see this. Alison Schaefer did a lot of research and clinical and field experience. She's an international speaker and parenting consultant, and suggested, no, I have to start this one first. Okay, so how are parents helping children today? And this really goes to adult children or older university-age children. So 82% of parents have provided financial support to their children. 82%. 15% of parents provide regular, ongoing, everyday expenses, supplementing the income or the spending of their children. 23% of parents support their children frequently when needed, such as paying for monthly bills. 44% of parents provide support occasionally when needed. So that might be when children run out of money at the end of the month, when there's too much money and not enough money. And only 18% of parents provide little or no support to their children. So Alison Schaefer, a researcher, draws from years of research, clinical and field experience. She's an international speaker and parenting consultant. Suggests parents are well-intentioned in offering help to their children, both financial and otherwise, but grown children may come to expect it. Rather than seeing these financial contributions as generous and finite, they may feel they are simply their parents' responsibility. Parents' responsibility, like forever? Yes, I have seen some parents supporting their children forever. Frequently, relationships between parents and adult children become strained when a parent cuts off support if attitudes of entitlement have developed over time. So what can parents do to help their children with that hand up, not a handout, and avoid feelings of entitlement? Well, let's go a little bit let's learn a little more. I talked about the BMO Wealth Institute and 82% of parents helping their children, and that was typically with monthly expenses, ongoing bills, university costs. But what do I see in my own practice? I see the majority of parents I work with want to help their children in the following areas. Post-secondary, undergraduate, and graduate degrees, either 100% funding them or some kind of co-funding with their children. They want to pay for weddings, down payments, starting a business, and educating the grandchildren. So in today's environment, parents are helping children in ways that they may never have been helped themselves. So the title of this webinar was 5 Actions That Parents Should Stop. Now, I think, honestly, that there are a lot of actions I could stop, and you may have your own list of actions that you should stop. But the first one is that spending, giving, saving is not in line with family values. So when we work with families, part of the first opportunity we have in that focus lens, remember, focus lens was to define your purpose, define your family story, look at your values, what is important to you. And you want to make sure that your spending or your giving or your saving is actually in line with your family values. It's not just keeping up with the neighbors or spending without thinking. It is actually spending in line with your family values. Very important lesson for our children. This one gets me all the time. Adult children using your credit card or staying on the payroll for too long. We looked at 82% of parents were helping their children. Well, how long does that help go on? It's a good question that parents need to reflect on. I started off by giving my children access or a supplementary credit card when they went to university because I thought, you know what, if they needed to book a flight home, needed an emergency, then they had that credit card to use for emergencies. But sometimes it can go on too long, and withdrawing that credit card and that emergency funding from children can strain relationships. I invited people into this webinar who felt that they were keeping the family wealth a secret. So many times parents will say, no, we can't afford that. No, we can't afford that. As if they really couldn't afford it. Children know when they live in good neighborhoods. They know when they go to private school. They know when they're flying first class to Hawaii, you are not poor. There's no sense in keeping the family wealth a secret and denying your children something because you're poor. You need to have that discussion between needs and wants, or spending, giving, saving, which is in line with your family values. Number 4 on the list is parents not holding their children accountable or not letting them suffer the consequences of their actions. One of the biggest worries for parents today is credit and the amount of debt that their children are in. And so sometimes, and I've done it too, rushed off to pay a credit card when I should have let that child either work out a payment plan or default on their credit card and suffer the consequences that come with that. So I think that it's really important as parents that we continue to think of our own values, that we do try to hold our children accountable for whatever we are asking of them, and sometimes letting them suffer the consequences of their own actions. The other one that I see I make and that other parents should stop is not following through on our promises. So I might say something like, I am going to take away that credit card next month, and then I don't do it. So the 5 actions that I believe parents should stop, you will have your own list, and there's probably many more, or maybe some of these don't resonate with you. But this is what I've seen in my life and in my practice, is ensuring spending, giving, saving is in line with family values. Supporting or helping adult children for too long that they're still on the payroll or using your credit card, or you're bailing them out for those monthly or daily expenses. Keeping the family wealth a secret, which just leads to bad relationships, parents, and a loss of integrity. Parents not holding their children accountable or not letting them suffer the consequences of their action. And I followed that through with the next one, parents not following through on their actions or on their promises. It's not all bad news though. How can we turn that around so that we can have 5 actions that parents can do to better empower their children? The first one is read, read, read. I read a lot of books. I love reading books. I feel that today it's all about always continuous learning and getting better at what I do, my skill set, getting better as an individual. And there's so many great books out there that you can start from the toddler stage with your children or your grandchildren right through the adult stage. And if you want to know some books, please email me at information@networkthinking.com on this or any other question. One of my favorites for little toddlers are the Bernstein Bears. And the Bernstein Bears get the gimmies. And I can relate to that because my 4-year-old granddaughter is always saying, can I have that? Can I have that? Let's get this. Let's get that. Everything. She's got the gimmies. Gimme, 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 gimme. For young adults, Rich by 30 by Leslie Ann Scorgi is a great read. Leslie Ann Scorgi is a Calgarian, and she writes a really easy to read book focusing on get things on sale, pay off your debt, have a spending plan. Great read for young adults. Also, for any age, Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth by Nick Murray really talks about the miracle that compound interest is, or the 8th wonder of the world, and also how to invest prudently. But one of my all-time favorites is a 1926 classic, The Richest Man in Babylon. It is a very skinny book. It's kind of written as a myth, but talks a lot about saving, spending, not keeping up with the neighbors in Babylon thousands of years ago. So if you read, there are some great books you can read with children. There's some great books that you can direct children to. Of course, today there's also some great movies that you can watch. There's some great Get Smarter About Money websites as well to just empower the next generations to really be good stewards of that family wealth. The next idea I would put out there is have money conversations when appropriate. So money conversations don't necessarily have to be, let's all sit down and have this money conversation. It just has to be a recognition, again, if we jump back to what your values and goals are, the difference between needs and wants. You can have money conversations when appropriate with anybody in your life. And I find that the best time is when the opportunity arises. Like your young adult says, I can't believe how much money I spent on my credit card. Great conversation to have, yes, because if you spend it on your credit card, you kind of forget that you spent it. And all of a sudden, the end of the month comes and you have other bills and you now also have that credit card bill. So when conversations should happen is when things are going on in people's lives where that conversation naturally comes up. But you can also have some structured conversations. In my own practice, I find one of the best times to have a structured conversation is when young adults are starting university. And they're starting university, wow, so many opportunities to come up with a spending plan, a budget. How much does it cost? Who's going to provide the money? Mom and dad, the university student? What are the expectations around that money? Oh, and if mom and dad had already set a registered education savings plan up, let's look at the investments. How has it been invested? How did mom and dad save this money every month? And what were the investment decisions they made? So great teaching moment somewhere in grade 11 and 12 when young adults go off to university. Next teaching moment.
Post-secondary.
Thank you. I did think I said that somewhere, but
yeah.
Another teaching moment is when your young adult gets their first job. There's so many decisions to make with your first job. There might be group RSPs, stock options, all kinds of different compensation. Great time to start saving 10% of the income that you make. So there are money conversations that can happen at a point in time, but there are also money conversations that can be structured through various life stages of people's lives. The next action that I want to talk to is structure loans rather than gifts. We looked at so many people, 82% of parents help their children, adult children out on a very frequent basis. And I also mentioned that in my own practice, I see parents gifting for down payment, for instance. A down payment, we all know the cost of housing is very expensive. We want to help our children get into the housing market. And so one of the ways that parents often do that is by gifting money to the newlyweds or to their children to purchase their first home. But rather than giving a gift, you can also structure it as a loan. So you could structure that you're still giving the money, but not gifting it. You're actually loaning the money. You can have an interest rate on there. You can document, paper it. It just gives perhaps a different mindset from the parents and the children's perspective that it's just not the parents' responsibility to do this. And it may lead to a less of a sense of entitlement to structure gifts, and not to structure gifts, but to structure loans rather than gifts. The next one I put there, 5 actions that parents can do to better empower their children, is number 4. And what I put here is contribute to an RESP. And this is an idea that many parents I see do because it is particularly important for parents, but often even grandparents. I see it more often. Grandparents have the ability to contribute to their grandchildren's RESP. So if you know young parents with young children today, children have so many things. They have so many toys. You go to their house, they have so many toys scattered around that they often don't play with. Perhaps contributing to their education is the biggest gift of all. So at Christmas and at birthday time, perhaps a book and a contribution to their RESP will make a more meaningful difference in empowering them to save, invest wisely, and to have a post-secondary education. The last one is provide your children access to your financial advisor. If you have a financial advisor today, and I talked about those money conversations that really are important at various times in your children's lives. If you are not able to steer them or are uncomfortable, I don't know, sometimes kids just don't listen to their parents. Provide your children access to your financial advisor. They will make a huge difference in your children's lives today and in the future. So 5 actions that parents can do to better empower their children. I'm a big believer, read, or watch movies, tutorials, videos. Have money conversations, both structured and unstructured. Consider structuring loans rather than gifts. Contribute to lifelong learning with an RESP. Teach your children how to save, how to invest prudently, and provide your children access to your financial advisor, which will change their lives for the better. So this is a 5-part generational wealth series, how we're passing on wealth from one generation to the other. And we always start with know and live your values. Share and communicate your family story. Educate and teach the next generation. That is the goal of these webinars, these 5-part webinar series, Intergenerational Wealth series. So what are the next steps? Check out my website at www.information@networththinking.com. In there, let me see what's next. In there is that quick quiz, that 2-minute quiz, will I run out of money in retirement, which will give you some clarity on where you are today. There's also a free book offer on my website. So the book offer is just pay for shipping, and I will be so happy to send you out that book. But for anybody who is still on the webinar, if you email me at information@networththinking.com, I will send you that free book and not charge you for shipping. Woohoo! My next webinar is on November 26th. I think this is going to be the best webinar of this series so far, because what I'm going to be talking about in this webinar is using philanthropy as a teaching tool to steward the next generation to be great at managing money.
How to give.
How to give well. So thank you once again from myself. I am founder and author of A New Way Forward for Wealth Management, Net Worth Thinking, and also the creator of the Net Worth Thinking Lens. Remember, focus, function, family, and finally what we get when we start implementing some of the strategies is freedom. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't hesitate to email me at information@networththinking.com and check out my website, www.networththinking.com.
32 minutes.
Okay. Well,
Great. And just remember that line?
Post-secondary?
No, that one.
Oh.
Because if you do that, Susan, you then people can see you, and you're moving through the audience.
So I want to get out of stop share because I want to make that money slide, that one.
Just
I stopped sharing.
okay.
Sorry, it's the first time I've run through it, so.
Well, let's close down your webinar, right?
Sure.
Let's end it for now.
When you write something and